Niners lost to the Browns. Debo got hurt. Trent Williams got hurt. Even McCaffrey got banged up late, but Debo was out. Minnesota, they lost the game. No Debo, no Trent. Cincy, still dealing with injuries. That's the only thing that can stop this team from winning the Super Bowl. When you look around, kind of the MVP conversation, I think, is reflective also of the Super Bowl race. And that is that there are less elite teams this year, just like there are less elite MVP candidates this year. And the Niners are the same. The Niners have changed quarterback. They've upgraded. But I know what they look like in the playoffs. And most importantly, I know what they look like when they're fully healthy. And they have had multiple years under Kyle Shanahan. They have never won a Super Bowl under Kyle Shanahan. But every single year that they've been good under Kyle Shanahan, when healthy, they can look like the best team in the league. And I think that's what they are again. And the only thing that will and can stop them from winning the championship is health. Is Debo getting banged up, Trent Williams missing the playoffs, McCaffrey getting not whatever, Purdy. I saw Stephen A had a take today, John, that the 49ers just invalidated the Eagles NFC Championship game from last year. Now, I understand good logic. Stephen A's got better depth and opinions than he gets credit for. He's not just a guy screaming. I disagree with that take. This is the game. People get hurt. People stay healthy. That's the way it works. I don't think they invalidated last year's NFC Championship game. I don't think Philly's as good this year, but
they were better last year.
Yeah, that is the only thing that can stop the 49ers at this point. When you look at Philly, when you look at Dallas, when you look at Miami, when you look at Baltimore, when you look at Kansas City, when you look at Buffalo, like all these teams that the ones that are equipped, when you look at Detroit, there is not anything out there that is a bigger threat to the Niners than their own health. That's it. That's the biggest threat to the 49ers is their health.
Do you think I could send DraftKings that Stephen A take and say, can I get my $2,000 back? Because last year when Max Homa won me $2K on Saturday night at Torrey Pines, and then I put it all in the Niners +2 or whatever the line was, and then the game was over when Purdy was on the fucking sideline, did they give it back? Or that's
if you had played at the prizepicks.com/ham50, you would know that Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy, John, that gives you a refund if one of your players gets hurt. Nobody else does that. But I don't think that DraftKings will do that for you.
No. I think they actually did some of that this year because FanDuel was not.
Oh, gotcha.
They started throwing bones. When a guy was injured, it's part of gambling. People get hurt. I mean, I don't know what to but I'm with you. I think that I do think the 49ers would have won that game, but by no means they easily could have lost it as well. But what we witnessed was a joke. And you knew it at the time. Everyone watching it was like, this is a joke. Because it felt like, didn't it kind of feel like the Super Bowl? I mean, obviously to go to the Super Bowl, but it felt like whoever won that game was going to have a huge advantage. Now it turns out the Chiefs won. But remember, the Eagles were winning that game. They were going to be favored in the game against the Chiefs. And it was, I give them a lot of credit. And listen, it's pro sports, you get paid a lot of money to try to win. But let's face it, being devastated can throw you off. They've responded pretty well. And the way they rallied around that quarterback, I mean, I think there's a level of belief. And listen, the Eagles have it too in Jalen that is very, very powerful. I think going way back, because part of when you're not everyone believed in Peyton Manning. Well, yeah, he was the number 1 pick. Or everyone believes in Trevor Lawrence. They were told to, they didn't even have a choice. This guy's the franchise. When the guy's
one of the richest guys when he walks into the room.
When the guy's a later round pick, you kind of got to earn some cred in the room. You really do. And I think Russell always struggled with that till to this day. It's do people even like this guy? Dak did not, right? People really gravitated toward him. And I give you, you got to have that to be a really good quarterback. Jalen has it, and Purdy has it in spades too. And if you're then good with that quality, the fuck, this guy's the limit. Because what if Brock Purdy just is what everything that we thought Baker Mayfield was going to be, right? They drafted Baker Mayfield number 1 overall to be this, right? He was never going to be the biggest. He was never going to be the strongest, but he was going to be elite. And he just wasn't. And so far, Purdy in his starts, has been elite. I saw Chris Broussard had a great argument against Nick Wright about, some of the MVPs and their yak percentage. because that's a low hanging fruit. Like, oh, Purdy gets a lot of yak. The yak. You know that Purdy this year in 2020 for his career, I think he's a little over 50%. It's like 51 or 52 for his, if you factor in last year and this year. In 2023 alone, it's like either 48 or 49%. You'd be like, that seems pretty high. I don't have much context when I just heard that number. But then he threw up all the former MVPs. Mahomes, 18, was like 54. Lamar, his year was actually the lowest of the group, was like 50 or 49. A bunch of guys in the mid to low 50s. Tom Brady, like, his part of playing football is like, you don't just catch and hit the ground, right? I mean, that's most of the teams. Like, and you look back to Tyreek and Mahomes and Kelsey in their heyday. I mean, it was a lot of like, get the ball to them and let them cook. But because he looked unlike, he had the little Farvian quality, I just don't understand why people, I think it's a pretty easy one. Like, I didn't think he was going to be this good, and now he is. Why can't you just pivot? I thought Brandon Staley sucked. If Brandon Staley had just started winning Super Bowls, I'd have to say, like, Brandon Staley's pretty good. Like, I've always thought Sark sucked. Now, I would still preface by saying he has the highest payroll in all of college football, and his team is stacked, and the Big 12 is down. But I got to give the guy credit. I mean, his teams looked awesome this year.
Right.
Again, highest payroll, Big 12 down, but still. That's a fact. I don't understand. Like, if you just watched Brock Purdy last week and you came away like, yeah, still pretty overrated. And I think you could have a fair argument. Is he the most important player on the team? Like, yeah, they have very, very important players because they have Hall of Famers. But the argument, we just saw it with Florida State, how important the quarterback is. I was intrigued when I thought Sam Darnold was going to start. You were, probably everyone kind of was.
Yep.
It's pretty clear that even if he actually is much better than he's ever been, he ain't this.
While you're talking, I just
you don't know that.
So Mahomes last year, I love that stat you gave because it just made me think of, like, let's go look at air yards, right? You don't know, did the come after a 15-yard pass or a 3-yard pass would be part of the, like, was what I would want to know about that. But like, Mahomes won the MVP last year, 41 touchdowns, 12 picks. Last year, Patrick Mahomes, 43% of his passes were considered short, which I don't remember exactly. I have to dive into the definitions here, but that's like my guess is that's within like 7 yards of the line of scrimmage. It's a short pass, but whatever that definition is, it's broken. The PFF breaks it down into 4 categories: deep passes, which I think are over 20-yard passes; intermediate, which are going to be
12 to 20.
Yeah, probably. So maybe short is within 10, whatever that short number is, and then behind the line of scrimmage.
Gotcha.
Those are the 4 categories.
So behind the line of scrimmage is not considered short.
No, that's a different category. I can give you the numbers on that.
I like that.
So Mahomes last year, 43% of his passes were considered short passes. And I'll tell you behind the line of scrimmage too. 18% of his passes were behind the line of scrimmage. So what is that up to? 61% were either short or behind the line of scrimmage. This year, Brock is the same exact percentage of short passes as Mahomes, 43%, same percentage. And his percentage of his attempts that are behind the line of scrimmage is, I can't even find him on this list. Didn't even show up on the list. I got to keep going. Hold on. That's the page. I don't know.
Well, like, for example.
Oh, you know why? Because he doesn't. Hold on a second. 14%. So again, same exact percentage as Mahomes last year. 43% of their throws were short throws and a lower percentage of throws behind the line of scrimmage. Now, my guess is that Brock's going to have a big percentage on intermediate throws, right? Let's compare those two. Brock is 7th in the NFL. 23% of his throws are considered intermediate throws. And last year, Mahomes, my guess, John, is this going to add up to Mahomes having a higher deep ball percentage? And Mahomes was lower, 20%. So that means Mahomes, by a few percentage is going to have more of his throws will be deep balls.
Yeah, which would make sense. I mean, he's more of a deep ball. Like Purdy is not, I wouldn't call a deep ball thrower. Like, to me, my comp for him is, if he becomes what he's doing right now and sustains it, is much more the modern version of Brees. I think that's what he is. Like,
Brock's
Brees
percentage is higher.
down the field.
Brock has 11% of his throws are deep throws, and last year Mahomes was 9%.
Now Tyreek had just left, right? I bet if you went to the MVP year, in 18 or whatever he first won it.
But the point is just you don't have to beat he won the MVP with those percentages, right?
41 touchdowns.
Yeah, 41 touchdowns. Yeah.
But
we're just talking about does Brock make NFL throws? Is what that conversation is, right?
Which is stupid. Of course.
And the answer is yes.
But you know what's weird? And maybe the landscape was so different. Drew Brees became one of the greatest players of all time, and his arm was never great. Peyton was just so good, no one really talked about his arm. Peyton's arm was pretty average.
Yeah, and got worse.
But he could make, and he did. He pushed the ball down the field. But my point is, and maybe it's because, some of the best players right now, Mahomes' comp is, a better version of Favre. So that's and the other guy, Josh Allen, is probably the greatest physical freak we've seen as just a true quarterback since Elway. So that's just and we see those guys play in primetime, and we have for the last 4 or 5 years a lot. That's kind of become the bar. Because Joe Burrow's just so good, but he's closer to Brock, I'd say, than he is those guys in terms of just the ball flying out of his arm, right? He does not throw. He throws a beautiful ball, but he does not have some I'm talking about Joe Burrow, yeah. Does not have some howitzer. I also think you can improve. Jake Browning, watching him last night, his arm is stronger than it was for Chris Peterson. And Troy Aikman talked about, there was a moment last night in the broadcast where he's Browning's a really impressive guy to sit down with, and we talked to him a lot about, obviously Jake is your classic Boise Chris Peterson type guy, right?
Yeah.
So just how seriously he's taken being a backup quarterback, and how he thinks he's improved dramatically, even though no one's ever get to watch him play. Just in that he works out with those guys like Burrow in the offseason and the training he does. You get to improve. Tom Brady looked a lot better by 2012 than he did in 2006. So part of Purdy is you get to keep improving from an arm strength standpoint. He fucking just had arm surgery.
But tell me this, from a scouting perspective, isn't physical traits part of what you have to use in order to project how much better where a guy's ceiling is?
Yeah, you would say, it's easy just to do this compared to a baseball pitcher. I would say Purdy right now hovers, 90 to 92. He's never going to get to 98, but can he get to 94 for a period from 28 years old to 33 years old where he just throws it a little stronger? Or is this just kind of be his arm strength his whole career? Because if it is, his margin for error is smaller if this is his arm strength his whole career, I would say.